Make sure that there's nobody. No, we're good. Okay, welcome back. We're doing this week 3, the Hospitality Sales Masterclass. I know that we have a few people that, well, one person in particular, Tracy, is not going to be joining us today because of the fires that are happening in Carmel. So I'm a strong believer of just sending lots of positive energy out there. So if you could all send a little bit of positive energy out there for her, that would be great. Her home, she was evacuated. Her home did survive, but she was concerned about it. So, gosh, you know, COVID, what's happening in our industry, and then a fire. Gee whiz, golly. Um, give her a break. Universe, give her a break. Okay. Don't know where the bings are coming from. It might be from your, oh, what do I want to say, from somebody's emails in the background. But okay. So today, let's talk about, does everyone have a camera? You guys could all go off mute and just share with me if you have a camera or not.
Yes.
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 Can everybody
Yes, I do.
put their camera on for a moment?
Yes, I have a camera on my phone, but not at the work computer, and I need the work computer to see the presentation.
Okay. So I'm just, the reason that I ask is, you know, when I first started this and I thought it made sense to share with you all. So if anyone can turn on their computer, anyone who has a camera, if you can share your camera, just make it active for a little bit just so that we can see each other. That's wonderful. When I started teaching this, I know everyone's like, oh, I had to get camera ready myself. I had a Zoom call with one of the rock stars this morning and I was putting my makeup on. It's like, this is a much bigger screen than my little mirror that I use. But
This is my quarantine look. I haven't had a haircut in 6 months.
I think it's, you know, I don't know. I'm probably not PC, but I think you look kind of sexy there, Robert. So, so the reason that I wanted to see you put your camera on, because I'm just curious, because when I did this, the very first one that I did in April, where the first set of webinars, people were just starting to get used to Zoom. And now we've been zooming. I've done so many calls where people are sharing that it's like if we knew then what we know now, we would have bought stock in Zoom, right? Because it's just become such a powerful tool. And the reason I just wanted you to exercise putting your camera on for this brief moment is this is, you know, we've been using this tool in this format, but think of how powerful this tool can be for you with client interaction when, you know, it's harder to do. People might not be doing site inspections, not so much site inspections, sales calls, actually going on sales calls, and not the ability to stop over, but there's, you know, the ability to send somebody a Starbucks card or have Uber Eats deliver to them, or DoorDash deliver to them, to where you can maybe do a lunch sort of a thing, but, you know, certainly do a coffee date and actually have this amount of interaction. Because thanks, that's what I was just thinking about, is when you get back to your office, as Cindy was sharing, she doesn't have a computer, doesn't have a camera on her office computer. So I'm just wondering how many of you are going to turn in purchase orders to get this capability at your office if you don't already have it, because it's such a powerful tool, and I would just encourage that. It was just one of the things that I wanted to do before it was just getting everybody to, and then the other thing, I don't know, Fran, you've always had your headshot up, but for some reason, not on your computer as well. For some reason, your headshot's not coming up, but I'm gonna turn my camera off for a minute, and it goes to my headshot. So just a little thing that you might wanna do is set it, maybe, Fran, you might be working from the office and it might not be you're logged into your regular Zoom account, but to do that, I think you need to develop a Zoom account to do what I did. I have paid a little bit extra because I need the capability of going over 40 minutes. Before the pandemic happened, they would let you go over 40 minutes, and but now they're really tightening those rules. So, and
I bet.
accounts don't cost anything. So I just would really encourage you all to, A, get a camera for your office, and B, get an account and have your headshot so that when you're not in there, you at least have your face available for people to see. Okay, so we're going to review what we've gone over from August 5th and August 12th. And so you guys have been really great about joining everything in the hospitality sales Facebook group, the HSM Facebook group, and interacting there. What I'd like to challenge you to do now is do a little bit more interaction. Cindy, I know you're back at work, so, you know, share with people the successes that you're having. I just did site inspections this past week on Thursday with Avery Murphy's newest rock star, and it was interesting. I'm posting those on Facebook. I'm not doing it here, but you know, the different, what you're doing as far as site inspections, what's working, what's not working, what you're, even like what you're able to do with your team. So I did 3 different site inspections, and each team responded differently, which is part of what I think is the challenge. Is you get the CDC guidelines. If you're a corporate hotel, you have corporate interpreting it and doing signage. If you're an independent hotel, your organization, whoever your asset manager is, or your director of sales and marketing and direct general manager are, you're all looking at and interpreting that. And I think that in times like this, that heightened communication is key, and sharing what's working as well as sharing what is not working. That's part of the being is in this mastermind that you're in as part of the hospitality sales Facebook group. So this is a closed group, and it's a place where you can share that information. So I encourage you to start doing that now before we get to our last call next week, so that you can exercise that muscle and know that you are there for one another, not just there in the relationship as it pertains to the hospitality sales masterclass. Does that make sense to everybody? Do I need to clarify any of that?
No.
Okay. And then we talked about the site selection professional mindset, and last week we had a couple of people comment on that. Instead of talking about the site selection professional mindset, I'd like to talk about, I posted 3 more videos of site selection professionals and seeing them, and I noticed that a number of people have looked at them, or at least who's actually watched any of the videos. Who have you watched, and what have you learned?
Michelle, I watched all 3. Really enjoyed Barbara's, Robert's, and Monica, I think was her name. But I think the one, Robert, I really got a lot out of Robert's.
Is it, you mean Brett?
Was it Brett? Oh, sorry, Brett. He's the one gentleman, has his own company.
Yes.
Okay.
Hotel lobbyist. Yes, that's Brett.
That's Robert Mayo, because I saw Robert on the screen. So I really enjoyed listening to him. I thought he was very open and honest about what he expected, what we needed to do as far as moving forward with RFPs, and how he does business. That was the key there. It wasn't so much about him as what he felt. I really felt he was trying to help everybody. He was really giving honest answers about things. I even sent him an email.
Good.
I sent one to Robert. I mean, I keep on the Robert. I sent one to Brett, sent one to Barbara as well.
Good.
And so yeah, just to reach out to them.
Wonderful. Anyone else want to share? Thank you so much, Darlene. I appreciate that. I'm going to get one more share out of you guys. I want this interaction. I need this energy to come up here a little bit. I need to also probably work on my arms. I'll flex my muscles there, my power girl pose.
Michelle, I watched the third one, the woman that does the large groups.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting. I think she kind of validated a lot of what I suspected as far as like, should I email? Should I call? How long should I wait? And she kind of validated that, you know, sometimes it just depends on how my day is going. I'm just like you. Sometimes I'm busy. Sometimes I'm slower. Sometimes it's easier for me to get it out over the phone. Sometimes I prefer the email. So it just kind of validated, you know, kind of what I suspected. And I think I'm going to do a better job of, you know, hey, if I don't get a response by email, I'm going to pick up the phone. If I don't get a response by phone, I'm going to use my email. I'm not going to get bent out of shape because I didn't get a response that day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate that. And now I'll move on to the calls to the second set of 10 site selection professionals. Fran, I got your list. Great job on that. Cindy, thank you for completing your first list. I know you said you're working on the second. And the only one I didn't double check and triple check it, but I think it was Gabe. Gabe, I'm not sure. Did you just repost the list from the first week? Because I thought you talked to Sam Thompson on week 1. And maybe because you weren't here last week, you didn't realize that we needed to talk to another group of 10 site selection professionals. Lost Gabe. All right. So that everyone's clear, we need to do the site that's 10 more site selection professionals. And again, we'll talk about that toward the end. Okay, so I'm excited because we talked about how to do an effective RFP and to read the RFP 3 times, as well as things from a proposal, the proposal checklist, so that your hotel can stand out. How many people have actually have dealt with new RFPs since our last call? Okay, got Darlene and I have Nancy. Anybody else have some new RFPs? Now I want to call on somebody here. Blossom, why don't you share with us if you have something?
I was able to complete all 20. So I finished 8 last week and then 12 this week.
Awesome, awesome. And what I wanted to ask you about though is, did you have any RFPs come in since our last call, Blossom?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I have not.
Okay. Anybody besides Darlene and Nancy that's had RFPs come on?
Well, I had a little small Cvent lead for 10 suites for a couple of nights coming up, but I don't know. I'm very iffy on anything for this year, so we're just kind of, you know, it's kind of a wait and see.
Okay. When you got it, it was real small, so was it pretty easy
Yes.
to read it 3 times? Did you think of any of the RFP tips that we talked about in last week's session?
Yes, I do. I do tend to make sure I understand, because sometimes I speed read a lot, so I have to make sure that I look at it again. And we are very careful about being recycle conscious, but I still print them out because I want to read them in my hand too, rather than just online. I think that helps me to make sure I'm reading it properly. So yes.
And that's
Yes.
Chris, right?
That's Chris Kiesling. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Whoops, I'm only going all over the place here. So here's the thing. They talk about this in the space that I started to become part of when I took my course, which is very similar in format to the course that we're taking here. I had 4 group coaching calls. I had homework in between. Mine was to do, mine was to reach out to folks like yourself to ask qualifying questions to develop the course content. And what they started to share is like how this funnel works of what you started to become part of a funnel. And has anybody here heard of funnels before? No. Okay, so we've got a yes and a no. So what happened is when you joined this, you were the funnel started with myself putting out either Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, posts, not ads, posts. I did do some Facebook ads, and actually, Fran, you're the most interesting one out of this entire group because Fran actually bought pure from the funnel. And so and I work with other people, like, everyone who did the interviews, and as well as Michelle Carlin and Christina from our team, and one other gentleman, Steve Steinhardt. I don't know if you guys know him, but they did what is referred to as affiliate marketing, where they sent out, hey, join this webinar to learn more about site selection professionals. When you joined the webinar, you fell into the interested category. When you stayed on the webinar till the end and you were starting to chat and interact more, you were qualified. You were qualified as someone who was going forward. And when you purchased your seat reservation at $97, you became committed. So I started to learn about this, like interested, qualified, committed. And I'm like, that's like just so simple in its essence. And I wanted to share with you how that relates to the RFP process in the hospitality industry. So when you get the Cvent RFP, that means that the organization, the site selection professional, is interested in your hotel. When they either put you on the short list or they schedule a site inspection, now you are in the qualified part of the process. And then when they send you a contract request, you're in the committed part of the process. So I'm talking about the interested part because what we want to know is how to get them from interested to qualified. How do we get on the short list? How do we get to the site inspections? And ultimately, how do we get that piece of business to close at your properties, right? So I just wanted to take a few moments because I think that it's powerful in its simplicity, and understanding that Cvent is that the person is interested in you. So we shared behind the scenes last week, and I decided that I was going to do just one more little round of that because, as you can see, the next thing is adult learning is repetition. So I'm going to share with you my screen again. And I just wanted you to see how what it is that we see on our end. Now this is because of the pandemic that all of this got turned down, because this program was supposed to happen in October, and it's 1,200 people under one roof, and there's no way that any of these properties can do that amount of people and social distance. It's physically impossible. But you can see actually in the hotel, we did have a contract request go out. I'll share that with you. And the contract request went to the Town and Country San Diego. So it wasn't the Westin LAX at the lowest rate. And these two were not kicked out because their rates were so high. So I wanted to share that rate always isn't the most determining factor. Just wanted to give you that. There was one other one that I wanted to Let me go back to manage RFPs. So here's something that's interesting for you to see. These went out to large searches, very large searches. 67, 63, 73, 55, 73, 55, 69, 69, 66. This one's 31. These went into such large searches because of the size of the meeting and the rate that it needed. So if you're searching a group from our perspective that is 30 rooms at the state per diem, I don't have to cast as wide a net. But if I'm searching a group that has 90 rooms at the state per diem, I have to cast a much wider net. Because if your hotel has 100 rooms, if your hotel has 200, 250 rooms, unless it's the pandemic and it's November, you're not going to take half of your rooms at the state per diem rate. You'd never meet your budget requirements. We know this. So this is one of the reasons why we would do a larger search. So think about that. And for those of you that are located in Northern California, it was when these groups wanted to go to Northern California, it was even a double, it was like a double whammy because of what was happening in Northern California as far as rates in 2019. We had to even extend a wider search because San Francisco, you know, the state per diem is $250 to start with. Then you get into San Jose, the state per diem, I think is, I don't know, San Jose, it might be 175. I used to have all this very memorized, but it could be 140. And in San Jose, this group was a 5-night stay group, which sounds great. Like everybody wants a 5-night stay group, but unless you're San Jose over a Tuesday and a Wednesday, when you can charge rack rates because of what's happening with the demand there. So I wanted you to see that aspect of it. And then let's go into this one. It wasn't showing me supplier and responses last time. But I wanted you to see why we had to do such a large search. Do you see all of the hotels that turned it down? There's your Chris. Because, so this is one of the reasons why you might see some leads come through, because we don't know where this is going to be the right fit. So just wanted to give you one other quick view of Cvent before I show you what we do. Now here, let me go into this and let's pick this one. And let's do suppliers and responses. Go to reports. Oops. I'm gonna do this. Oh, it's because it's already done. Sorry. Well, that's what you saw was how easy it is for me to do a report. So it looks like you saw I did a couple of clicks to actually build the report. Now, this is what the report looks like that we send to our clients. Okay, so first of all, our clients can click here and go right to your website. It's taking a little bit longer because I've got you here. So they can go right to the website from there. We want to know like how big the hotel is, because some clients want to be a big fish in a small pond. Some clients that doesn't make a difference. But we want the client to see like how many rooms, how much square feet of meeting space do you have, that sort of thing. This is the little blurb where you do this. Now I'm going to be transparent with you as I always am. This is something, this particular report, my office manager, Kathy, did this for me. If I were to do this report, I would take this out. I would simply go like this. Because look at all this information that our client has to go through. Like, that's a lot of information. I've cleaned a lot of this up, but I would just simply take that out. Now I'm going to put it back in. But this is where I'm talking about the fluff. If you're going to put something here, this is like your proposal introduction. This is where you would add that compliment. It's, you know, thank you. This is, thank you for considering the hotel. Thank you for considering the hotel. So, you know, some tell a little bit about it. Actually, this one, we're excited about the opportunity to welcome your group to our resort. That's appropriate, like the length, because all of this other stuff is all here on your website. This is the fluff that I was talking about. That is something that you can consider leaving off. That this is something that we read through. Now this is pertinent. This is really pertinent. Unfortunately, we cannot offer the arrival pattern with 70 rooms on Friday, but this is what we can do. This is a good example of that. And let me just make sure. I think everybody is in. Just make sure that yeah, we're all in, sorry. Oh, there's Fran's face. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to do is share with you the commission. Our clients do see that, and it defaults to red in Cvent because Cvent just has it as 10%, and when it's not 10%, it defaults. Just giving you that. We actually, Cvent doesn't put in our logo. Cvent doesn't highlight it like this. We actually have to do all of that. We highlight the concessions that are being offered. Now, here's the concessions that we've requested, and here's the concessions that were offered. So you can see some of the folks did everything. You can see, and this is a great comment. I'm happy to discuss concessions once we are shortlisted. Now, it wouldn't hurt to have the concessions there when everybody else is doing that, but that's not necessarily a bad practice unless you look and see what everybody else is doing, right? Like if someone's just skimming this, they're going to be like, okay, Laguna Cliffs Marriott, they don't even have any concessions if they don't actually take the time to read it, right? Sleeping rooms, again, this is something that when I put together proposals, so it's different for each person. When I put together the search results for my clients, unless I read through this and unless there's something that really stands out to me, I just delete all of that because that's what I call fluff. And then of course we highlight the guest room rates. And we do that in green so that everybody can see, so that our client goes down to and says, hey, what are we looking at? And when we talk to our clients, we're like, check to see if the guest room rate fits in your budget, and then check to see if the food and beverage minimum fits into your budget. And here's the food and beverage minimum. Now, the reason that I picked this, I don't know if it was this one, but remember I talked to you about filling in the meeting space? Put in a meeting space. Okay, everybody did a great job here of filling in the meeting space. But can you see the difference? So the Park Hyatt is offering a room at 17 square feet. Paradise Point is 3,000. The Hilton Torrey Pines is doing 8,500. Like you could see how all over the board it is. And if somebody wanted a lot of space, they might say, hey, you know, we're not going to be able to do the Park Hyatt Aviara. But this is what clients start to take a look at. The other thing that we include is the turn downs. And this is where I do leave the comments, because I want to figure out, is this because the budget is too low? Is it sleeping rooms unavailable? Is it, here's one, it's dates and pattern, rooms availability, dates and pattern. That's really important, because if it's all one thing, then I can advise my client. Like if it's all room rates requested too low, then I can say, hey, we either have to look at your budget, increase the budget, or we have to look at not doing 4-star properties. We might need to look at 3.5-star properties. And then here's the other one that we include is the no responses. And the reason that we include all of this is because oftentimes our clients will say to us, I really want to be at blank blank hotel, or my boss really said to have me check out blank blank hotel. And we include them in the search, of course. In this particular case, I got a list of properties that our client was looking for. Now, in this particular case, so I did get a list. The list included the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Beach. Actually, when they moved up there, it included the Terranea Resort, and it included the St. Regis Hotel. And here's why they included those. They included those because they had had events at all of those properties, so they were familiar with it. And how I got involved is they were having challenges in working with one of those 4 properties. And they were like, okay, I've spent enough time doing this. Maybe I should get a professional involved. I got the referral from someone else in the organization that I had worked with. In doing the larger search, the person that I was working with, her boss looked at it, and her boss picked one of the hotels that had a lower rate. And let me see if this is the search results where this is. Not in here, but let's go down here. They picked a hotel with a lower rate. Let's say they went to the Hotel Del because they were at $299, or they went to the Loews Coronado Bay because they were at $269, because there were challenges happening within the organization and it was being restructured and the budget was changing. So as much as they wanted to go back to the hotels that had the higher rates, and you'll see, as much as they would have liked to have gone back to the Ritz-Carlton at the $349 rate, when they realized they could get something close enough, like the Loews in San Diego at $269, there was stuff happening in the background that my person didn't know about. She was the assistant to the president of the regional center. So that's another reason why we will do larger searches, because we don't know that part of some of the qualifying process. And in this particular search, they did end up going with a property that they never used before because they were using different decision criteria. And that's why when you talk to the site selection professional, you want to know, in this particular case, I wanted to get things, what I really focused on in this case wasn't guest rooms until I got that information. But I was smart, because if you look at this food and beverage minimum, this is a higher piece of catering business. And this particular group, because of it's a faith-based organization and they don't drink alcohol, this is just food, people. This doesn't include alcoholic beverages. So I would, you know, go back to the hotels and say, if you want this, really look at your food and beverage minimum and see if you can do better. Now, most of the people did the $75,000 food and beverage minimum that we requested. A couple went a little over, but most of them stayed right there. All right, so that's one set of search results. And you can include attachments. The only thing I'm going to share with you here is right now, include attachments with regard to your cleaning procedures of your guest rooms and your public space, as well as if you have done anything to figure out what the new capacities are in your meeting space to accommodate social distancing.
Michelle,
Yes.
how far out of for the when the group travels, like say you're bidding on something for 2022, 2023, do you still find that that's necessary, that the clients are looking for it? For the cleaning standards and the social distancing, seating charts?
I would do it for anything in up to 2022.
Okay.
I actually was on a call earlier this week with the folks that did the interviews, the affiliate marketers, and they're saying that they're finding with most of their clients that it's third quarter of 2021 that we're going to start to see things. Now, I think now a lot of those folks have larger groups. So when you're talking, you know, 1,000+ people in a group, that's a different situation than training meetings that are, I would say, you know, there's a big gap. 100 people and fewer, I can see those starting to happen possibly in the fall if everybody keeps wearing their mask and the numbers keep going down. First quarter and second quarter. It's the large programs that are looking like it's going to start in the third quarter is of 2021. And that's why I say I would still do it through 2022. So great question. And AV, parking charges, and then we just ask additional questions so that we know if this is corporate managed or not. We know, you know, for instance, if a Marriott's corporate managed, I'm not going to have a conversation with this sales professional here as much as I'm going to have a conversation with the what do I want to say? These are all Marriott managed properties. Okay, here's one. Like the Hyatt, because I would have a conversation with this Hyatt because they're managed by a management group and see if their commission would be different. So everything we're doing, we're doing that to save all of us some time. So this goes into those, when I say there's a question asked, this is why the question is asked. That's why we ask that particular question. Okay, let me pull up these search results. So this is search results. This is an account. I still have accounts, but I don't actively source any longer. So I team with folks on my accounts, and I team with Christina on this one. So Christina, you can see, you know, we have similar formats, but some of this has changed just a little bit. She doesn't include the picture, but she leaves in this part. She didn't include the concessions that we asked for, but she highlighted the concessions that were offered. She did highlight in green what it is that we're looking for. So the other thing that we can tell, Avery Murphy, at least this is part of what we do when we do the larger searches, is we look at this and we go, okay, there is quite a bit of availability. There's not that many hotels that turned it down. So we can tell at the time that we source this over these dates, there wasn't a lot of compression in the city. This is the one I wanted to share with you. Okay, do you see what it looks like when somebody doesn't fill out their meeting space? The thing that I do want to share with you on this is there is a slight difference. We can tell, I can tell, let me rephrase that. I can tell, let me speak in the I language with regard to this. The first set of search results, these are all particularly, these are 4-star properties. They're all high-end hotels. The attention to detail at that price point, I see a direct correlation. It's increased. This is the sort of attention to detail that I'm talking about. In this one, let me go back down here, general session. Every single hotel at this 4-star price point put in the meeting room versus, go down here, this one where, you know, these are still nice hotels, but you know, the DoubleTree Mission Valley, I call that probably like a 3.5 star. They might actually, I don't think they have their 4 diamond. The Hilton Harbor Island, you know, a solid 3.5 star. Marriott Marquis, this surprises me. Like their attention to detail should be here. But that's just, it just looks sloppy. You look sloppy when you don't do this. Your attention to detail isn't there. And there's different philosophies on this. Some folks with Helms Briscoe, I know, because I've had relationships with them from when I was with the organization from 2005 until 2012. They will chase you down to get you to fill all this stuff in. I didn't chase you down to get all this stuff filled in. It came mostly because I didn't have the time, because I had such a big book of business when I was placing 400 meetings a year. If I had to follow all this up, I mean, I would have never slept. I probably would be like Twiggy too. I probably wouldn't have had time to eat. But the other thing that happens is as a third party, our clients, one of the selling benefits for them working with a third party versus working with the hotel direct is that they don't have to field all the voicemails and all the phone calls that come with a search. You know, you start following up, and then, you know, they send you an RFP and you're coming into Sacramento because it's seasonal. So you dial through the list and who am I going to talk to? A lot of our clients choose to be with a site selection organization because they can't handle that inundation that comes with this part of it. That said, some of our clients, what they miss though is if you're the person, let's say you're the Lowe's, and the Lowe's, you know, gave a, let's look at this. The Lowe's gave a $199 rate, and their food and beverage minimum is $26,000. And this person called us and emailed us and said, hey, Michelle, how can I make you look good to this client? What I will share is if they say to me, well, you know, Michelle, what I really wanted was to really be at the Catamaran, but they didn't tell me where the meeting space is. Like, and I know the Catamaran, I've seen it. Like, am I in that room that's downstairs, or am I going to be in the ballroom where all the windows are? Like, if I'm going to be in the room that's downstairs, then I don't want to consider them as much as I want to be in that. I mean, that's an outstanding location, that hotel. It's just an outstanding location. But it has a ballroom that whenever I cite clients and they see that ballroom, they're like, no, that's not going to work. So that would be good information. If my client were to come back to me and say, hey, Michelle, I need to know where I'm going to be at the Catamaran. Can you find out? I would say, sure. However, you know, client, you are extremely detail oriented and they miss this. If they're missing it here, what else are they going to be missing when you get on property? This is a way that we can communicate with our clients how you're communicating with us. So at Avery Murphy, we don't chase this down, but some other site selection professionals I know will chase this information down and to get it. And certainly you're not going to stand out if you don't put that information in.
Michelle, I have a question.
Yes, Robert.
I know you say you don't chase down the clients for information. However, on my end, how do I respond to receiving RFPs that aren't completely filled out?
Okay, so couple of things. That's where that question is, where are you in the selling process? So when I have I'm going to take us off a stop share for right now. When I have a brand new client, think about your clients. Does anybody relate to the client that says, hey, Robert, I really want to come to your hotel. I heard some great things about you. I want to be by the mouse ears. And, you know, the reason that I want to come to your hotel is I know that you have some great outdoor space, and this is where I want to do our awards dinner. And you're like, that's wonderful. So, you know, tell me, what dates are you looking at? Well, we're looking in, let's just say August. You're like, okay, August. And, you know, when every family's coming and that's my leisure month, but you know, okay, I don't know, you might still need some more information. You're like, okay, do you have the dates narrowed down in August? Not sure. And then the next question you ask is like, well, what days of the week are you going to meet, right? You get to narrow them down on the days of the week, and they're saying, well, you know, it's definitely going to be during the week. And you're thinking, okay, that could possibly work because our weekends is where all the leisure is going to be for the month of August. Okay, that could work. And then, you know, are you going to avoid school, or does that make a difference to your attendees? Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, probably the first two midweek patterns in August. Okay, great. Now I want to talk to you more about this outdoor space and what I have envisioned for my dinner. You don't even know how many guest rooms they have. And so then, you know, they're talking about that. And of course you're going to listen to them. And then the next thing that happens is that, you know, you get from them, okay, so how many guest rooms are you going to need? Great, great, great. They tell you that they're going to need guest rooms for 3 nights. So now we know there's more going on than the dinner, and you start to go, okay, so tell me about, you know, what else you're doing besides the dinner. Well, we meet. Okay, is it a general session? Are there breakout rooms? You know, and finally you get enough put together where you can actually like look at it and put it through RevMax. Our clients look the same way. I can tell you sometimes it's painful to try and get the information from the clients. So when a site selection professional, any of them that you're seeing on those videos, anyone who's still working during this pandemic, we know how to qualify a client. If we haven't qualified the client, the likelihood is because our client is hung up on the effing dinner. And you're like, dear Lord, our hotels need to know more than about that dinner, because they can't even like look at the space. So when you don't have a lot of the information, I would venture to, I don't gamble. I'm not a gambler. I have $20 that I gamble with when I go to Vegas. And I often spend it at the airport when I'm coming home because I don't gamble. I would gamble that over 50% of the RFPs that you see that don't have all the information, it's because a meeting planner is focused on something and doesn't know how to give the right information. And it was like pulling teeth to get the information that they got. So that's going to be my first thing that I'm going to share with you. The second thing is, I would just be very specific. Like this is the best I can quote you until I have this further qualified. And here's the thing is, I know this is why I spend, the biggest thing that you want is the budget on the guest rooms. I would focus on the budget on the guest rooms first and foremost, just from walking in your shoes for 13 years. Pardon me, my nose is running just a little bit. What I would focus on is the budget of the guest rooms. Because again, from walking in your shoes for 13 years, if my client said, you know, just quote me your best rate, just quote me your best rate, just quote me your best rate, I'm like, you guys are killing me. Like, I want to quote you my best rate. Give me the budget, because if I put this through RevMax, we're going to look at what our budget is supposed to be for that particular month. Are we ahead of pace or behind pace? And it depends on what type of general manager and director of sales you have and what type of revenue manager. Some of them say we're ahead of pace, so we need to bump up the rates. Some of them say we're ahead of pace, let's make sure we sell out and I can take that state rated piece of business. You know, there's no rhyme or reason to how some of these folks figure things out. You just have to figure out what your team goes with, right? Then the next thing is, after we look at that, you look at compression in the area, you look at all those other things, and the best rate that the hotel can come up with is $209. And then the client says to you, well, I can't pay more than $150. And you're like, that would have been great to know before I went into this. I could have possibly gotten you a $179, but now that we've quoted $209, the likelihood that I'm going to come back and get $179, good luck. But if you had started, you could have gotten it. So the thing I would focus on, Rob, is getting that guest room rate, because that's the hardest thing with how revenue management is happening these days, to get that rate. Everything else you can kind of finagle. Does anybody here disagree with me on that as far as revenue management? Because it's been since 2005 that I've been on property level. I can tell you what I experienced from this side of it, but I haven't been on property since 2005. And I just know whenever my clients wouldn't give me the budget, I teach that to clients, by the way. I do a whole course on, if you think you're doing some fancy negotiations with your hotel by asking for the best rate, you're just shooting yourself, not in the foot, you're shooting yourself in the head. Like, get your head out of the sand. And if you've got a budget, tell them what the budget is. Because trust me, they're trying to get you the best rate. If you just do what's the best hotel rate, you're gonna quote what you need to quote to fulfill your forecast and your budget and all of those things. So that would be my advice to you.
Meeting space. Unfortunately, sometimes we get RFPs that are requesting more space than we actually have. So it seems like they're not actually looking at our property to suit their clients' needs.
So here's the thing. I could be very well one of those people. Here's what we look at is, if I have a client that needs a 10,000 square foot ballroom, and then they need 10 breakout rooms. If you have a 10,000 square foot ballroom, I'm gonna select your property. But if the most that you have is 6 breakout rooms, That's where there's that disconnect, because I'm going to go for the big part. I might share with my client, if you want to bid on it, I will work with my client to say, I'll give you an example of when this actually happened to me. It was the DoubleTree in Mission Valley, actually had done some really good business with one of my groups, and I had a number of clients that had selected and contracted that property, so I got to know the team really well, knew the property fairly well, and I was a little cocky. I thought I actually, I was a lot cocky, but I'll just taper it. I was a little cocky. So I went to the hotel, and it was my client at the time didn't like to do site inspections because she just didn't like the time away from the office. And I said, you really got to do these. And she's like, I'm going to send my executive director. So the executive director and I are going around, and we did a site inspection. I'll share with you the Hyatt La Jolla. And the Hyatt La Jolla had the perfect meeting space, and the DoubleTree didn't. The DoubleTree reused general session, even though the RFP said that she couldn't. They had to reuse the general session to get her all of her breakouts. And it was actually a real funny thing, because the sales manager there did an outstanding job. And I saw this bromance blossom right in front of my eyes. I thought I was doing a 2-hour dinner site inspection. 4 hours later, I'm dragging my little hiney home, and there was port involved, and I'm just like, oh dear Lord. And I knew her executive director was going to pick the DoubleTree because the sales process worked and he got sold. And I knew the meeting planner was going to be upset with me because she didn't want to have to flip rooms. But I could tell her, if there's any hotel in San Diego that I know that can make this happen, it's the DoubleTree in Mission Valley. Their team is that tight. It's you can do a 15-minute break and they can flip a room. That team is that tight. I knew that. So I got her through it. So if that's the type of challenge that you're having, is like they didn't look at all the breakout rooms and everything, is be creative. Now here's another example of what I did. I sourced the Dana on Mission Bay for a meeting, and they only have like one ballroom, and they needed like separate space for the meals, or they needed separate space for the exhibits. And it was just like, it was either meals and exhibits or meals in a general session room. And the sales manager there at the time, his name was David, he gave me a ring and he's like, Michelle, he's like, sweetie, what are you smoking over there? He goes, because my hotel can't do this. And I said, oh, but David, you know, when I was over there for the whatever you put on, you had that tent in the parking lot. And I can envision doing this sort of a thing. And, you know, I don't know, but I think with everything else that my client's looking for, he's like, really? A tent? And I'm like, absolutely. You guys did it when you did this event, and I remembered it, and your parking lot's perfect for it. And I think that we could put the meals or this and that there. So I'm sharing with you, Robert, I could be one of those people that didn't look at everything. Now, if I need 20,000 square feet of meeting space for general session, and your largest ballroom is 10,000, well then shame on me. But if it's something that it's creative, where like you can reuse space to do something, we're looking for those opportunities to help our clients get out of, quite frankly, their own way. You know, if they can't reuse general session space, clients seem to think that that's free. They don't understand that that's all calculated in how you quote the rate, and how you quote the food and beverage minimum, and how you do the concessions that you offer. You know, if you can max out your meeting space so that you can get more group rooms, you're going to do that. We do our best to try and educate our clients that way. And sometimes we might kind of push in a hotel that has to be, so that we can get our clients to be more flexible, so that we can offer them more options in the future. Is that helpful?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that would be another example of what I shared last time. I can't do this, but this is what I can do. But if it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, just say, you know, I'm sorry. Cvent has actually gotten much better at, their algorithm has changed. And if I pick a hotel based on that criteria, but something else is off, Cvent will, in the past, I'd say 18 months, comes back and says, this isn't going to work. So Cvent has gotten actually much better at having that lesson happening. Any other questions? Okay. Let me share my screen again. Go back to this PowerPoint. Okay. That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking it. Okay. But the site selection perfect. Boy, I really do need to spell check all of these. Professional does with your proposal. So we talked about email subject lines for active RFPs, and this is where, Robert, we were talking about where are you in the sales plot process with the client meeting? If you use that before you ask those questions, it's an NLP term. It's a pattern interrupt. We're so used to saying, you know, I'm following up, or I need more information to complete the proposal. Can you send me, if you ask them where they're at in the sales process, that's going to do a pattern interrupt, and they're going to be like, what are they at? What am I in the sales process? And then they'll read further and they'll go, then the light bulbs will start to go off. So that's one of those things that I do, like from an NLP perspective, that is going to do a pattern interrupt with the third party site selection professional. I would like to help you with the client meeting. That's just like offering help instead of, and that's more of a psychology of when prior to the pandemic, everybody was moving so fast that it was a lot of what's in it for me. What can I get for the hotel? What's, you know, I need to get this done so that I can get to the next 20 things that are on my desk. If you switch it and you're helping them, that's another pattern interrupt. That's why I picked these subject lines. And then the last one is, may I learn more about you and your hot buttons? Again, that's another pattern interrupt. I can hear one of my friends with Helms Briscoe go, like, I don't care about my hot buttons. I care about my client's hot buttons. That's because that particular Helms Briscoe associate has a very mature portfolio, and he doesn't have a lot of new clients. So he's only going to tell you their hot buttons. But when he stops and he does that, you've stood out to him. And when you explain it and you say, hey, I'm asking you this because you're my client and I want to make you look good to your client, they're going to open up to you in a much different way than they would have if you just said, you know, tell me your client's hot buttons. Because that's what everybody's doing. So what I'm trying to do here is to help you guys open up so that you can stand out. And okay, this is the last one. This is your third assignment. We're not doing homework. This is your third assignment. Help needed. And we are going to ask the same questions and 10 more. And you won't have to do this until you want to join the Hospitality Sales Master class with me again in the fall. But that's the last assignment. When you complete all 3 assignments, which is that you've called a total of 30 site selection professionals. So anybody who didn't do last week's, you still have that opportunity. And the 30 site selection professionals that you qualify with this list is how you earn your seat deposit back. That, as well as attending each of the sessions or watching the videos. I did get some feedback that this is the first time. Actually, I think, I'm not sure if it was Tracy or Deborah. It might have been you, Darlene. I'm not sure, but there was someone who got pushback when they were asking these questions? Did anybody else get pushback when they were asking these particular questions? Everybody's done good?
No, no, not really. No.
Okay. The pushback is that the company said this is our proprietary information. But when they got on the phone and they started to understand that they weren't asking for their clients, because I even get this when I'm asking folks to do the interviews for the bonus interviews that you get. They're like, well, you know, I'm like, I don't want your clients. And I share with them what I would share, where, you know, you've even seen some of our clients because you saw our Cvent and everything. It's not that that's so proprietary. It's, you know, I can get why they wouldn't want you to do the client. Again, it depends where they're at in the relationship with that particular client. The relationships that I am sharing with you, I have very strong relationships with those clients. So I'm not concerned about anybody doing any funny business. And even if you did, I'm secure in my relationships with my clients. But if I have a new client, I'm going to be a little bit more guarded. So if you run into that, really just get on the phone, because the one person who shared it with me got on the phone and they got all the answers to these questions. Anybody want to share any feedback before we wrap up today, with regard to how the process is going, what you're learning as you're talking to the site selection professionals?
Michelle, this is Cindy. Can you hear me?
I can, Cindy.
Oh, good. I thought I'd pop in instead of doing the chat thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the calls have been great. Most people are really very chatty, as we've seen before, too. I am finding, because I'm asking them that, looking forward, you know, how are things looking? How are you feeling about meetings? Are you getting inquiries and such? And I think it's a little bit all over the board. They've sort of given up on 2020. There's maybe a couple hanger-ons there. Q1 is kind of going the same way as 2020. And, but encouraging with new bookings for summer and beyond. And kind of like we've been learning along the way too, there are some comfort zones with the virtual meeting, but they really want to get back to face-to-face. But I would say out of the calls I've made and connected, they are, 90% of them are still very busy and active, and a couple of them are just sort of wandering. And like everyone agrees, every hotel needs a market mix, and those who are heavily in one particular market more than another are the ones I'm finding that struggle. So market mix is important for everybody, you know, especially our third-party clients too. If you had all your eggs in one basket and you were big-time corporate or Smurf right now, you may not be sitting in a good spot.
Yeah, that's great information. Anybody else want to chime in with that sort of feedback? Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. Fran, you completed your assignment with the second. You've reached out now to 20. What have you kind of gathered as far as what's happening out in the marketplace?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry. No, I felt they were very positive feedback. They're ready to get back on it. Most of them told me they are receiving RFPs for meetings, which was good to hear. I actually, they were very talkative on the phone, basically. Yeah, I had all good positive feedback, and most of the people were very willing to share once they found out more or less what the numbers that I was wanting in numbers. But I think everybody's anticipating waiting to see what happens this fall. But no, they're still booking business.
Good, good.
So that was encouraging to me.
It's very encouraging, and it's good because you're from Ohio. So,
Right.
you know, it's in California, we were one of the first to go into shelter in place and one of the last to come out of shelter in place, where Ohio didn't go into shelter in place as quickly.
March 19th is when we went.
You did on March 19th as well?
Yeah, our property did not reopen. Well, all 3 of our destinations were closed, but we reopened June 19th.
Okay.
That's how long we were closed, completely closed. And we still have a really tough mandate right now.
Okay. So, you know, it's interesting. I wanted to share with all of you, I did site inspections this week with our new rock star and one of our new rock stars. And because it's part of the training. And the interesting thing to me is that, well, first of all, I was like, gosh, do I do them? Don't I do them? And I'm doing a speaking engagement for SGMP in Sacramento on September 10th. And in part of my leadership thing, I share with them, you know, do something to keep the meetings business going and forward. And even if it's something like doing a site inspection. And I was like, okay, let's just do them to see what it's like, because we don't know what things are like. And every hotel, as I shared with you earlier, did things differently. The other thing is each hotel said something different with regard to what they've got on the books and what's happening. One hotel said 2020, we're just not doing any business. The rest of 2020, we're just not doing it. The next hotel we went to said, I'm now just working on October. And I said, oh, so you're taking meetings? And she said, absolutely. She said, if they want to come, we'll make it work. Now, this is a concept that I want to share with you guys because I hadn't heard it, is they had specs for their meeting space, regular meeting space before the pandemic, shelter in place, and then they had moderate seating because some of their meeting planners were asking, and by moderate seating, they still had 6 feet apart, but rather than having all of the tables 6 feet apart, they had 6 feet between the chairs so that it might be closer together in a classroom setting. So I just want to share that with you as market intelligence. Again, I'm doing this based on what I call the mastermind so that we can all bring meetings back to hotels faster. And then the other thing that came out of the site inspections is everyone was saying that they were trying to hold firm on rates, that they didn't want to do any rate slippage. And then, you know, as the site went on, they would be like, you know, but don't, you know, please let us bid on the business because we don't know. Now, here's the thing is it was a VP in one of the hotels, actually a regional, let me see, area director of sales and marketing. And he said, well, everything from 2020 is moved into 2021. So there's compression in 2021. Yet when I'm talking to a lot of people that are in my space, their clients are looking at hybrid meetings or virtual meetings up until about the fall. So there isn't compression in 2021. And one of the things that came out of the call when I was talking to the folks in my space is we have this unique situation that I don't know that it's ever happened historically, where we went from the top of the market, the seller's market in 2019 to the lowest low we've ever seen. Like there was no
Yeah, I agree.
trend.
Totally.
We went from you know, on to off. So a lot of the psychology, Michael Dominguez talked about this when he talked about it in the opposite way. And he said, you know, hotels on the West Coast, this was, I forget when the economy started to come back up, but it was, let me do that math real quick. Must have been like around 2015 is when I think I saw him. And he said, you know, the marketplace has come back. And he said, and the East Coast is negotiating and the rates in the East Coast are moving higher faster than they are on the West Coast. Well, what happened on the West Coast is there was a lot of supply added to Vegas, and it skewed the numbers for the entire West Coast. And he said the psychology of the sales professionals is that they were back from that economic downturn, and they were from the psychology of, I've got to wheel and deal and do whatever it takes to get this business. And it took them till about 2016 to catch up with the psychology of where the market was. So I just share this with you. I don't want to see rates erode. Maybe we don't do it with rate. Maybe we do it with very flexible contract terms, especially throughout 2021. Because even if you've got a bunch of business on the books, we still don't know what the economic fallout is going to be of all of this. We don't know what's happening with people in education. We don't, and what that's going to do to how people can travel, and what that's going to do to households. Are we going to go back to more traditional households for a long time, where one of the parents decides that they have to stay home to take care of the kids instead of having two working parents, or, you know, or if you're a single parent household, like how you handle all that. So I just want to share that with you as you're messaging out there. We want to stay cautiously optimistic. And I'm not saying that I want to see your rates all drop. What I would focus on more is, like, can we talk about the entire package? Can we talk about the things that we can do that you feel good going into a contract, like performance clauses with regard to rooms and food and beverage? Those would be just some other things that I would say as you're looking at RFPs to get business secured. And I don't know if the same thing holds, but when I was on the hotel side, again, it's been 2005, but when we put in a corporate group, it was built into the reservation system where we netted it every time we netted it at 80%, so that we could make sure that the hotels sold out. And if we had a Smurfy piece of business, we would net that at 50%. What I would recommend to you guys as you're building your groups in for 2021 is net those things back. I would net them back by about 50%. And if you have to walk people, that would be a quality problem to have. I just want to have you guys set up properly so that your hotels can perform as best as they can in 2021. And the other thing I wanted to share is, it may not be legal, but meetings are happening. And if your hotel is comfortable and the client is comfortable, I haven't heard of any lawsuits coming down the pipe because somebody met and they weren't supposed to. I mean, you don't want to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like, you want to do everything right. But if you guys can book meetings in 2020 and the client wants to, I would say go for it. Like, make it happen. Let them know, like, we can be creative and we're going to make sure that you're safe. I just want to, like, give you, because my gut's telling me that, yeah, 2020 isn't going to come back and it's not going to be normal, but there can be things that I think could happen in 2020. That's what I'm saying. Fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I think flexibility is the key, and hold your rate integrity right now, because it's going to take some time to get it back.
Perfect. Thank you.
Myself, we opened on June 19th, and I have had 7 site visits, and some of those were for large conventions. The first one I did was June 21st. It was for 15 people. I was scared. I didn't know what to expect, but it actually went very good. A couple of my groups, before we went to mask mandate, they refused to wear masks, and we have to wear masks. Some clients are very uncomfortable wearing a mask. It is hard to tour a client with a mask on, you know, when you have a big group like that, when you have 15 people in front of you. But yeah, so it's great. I've already done site visits, and yeah, it went really well.
Good, good. I'm thrilled to hear that. Thank you for sharing, Fran.
Yeah,
Anybody
sure.
else want to share?
Can I ask you both a question? How do the site inspections work now? How do you see the hotels dealing with, like you're saying, people don't want to wear masks, and how do you work with the client showing all the safety procedures now?
I kind of, before my site visit comes in, I do like a site visit survey, basically like a questionnaire to get their hot buttons, what they like, what they don't like. And I kind of give them a breakdown of what to expect, especially right now. There is social distancing, masks are required, because my first go around, when I had my first two and they were refusing to wear masks and things like that, I was concerned about my own safety, number one, because some of these people come from all over, from surrounding states. So I was concerned about our associates and myself and other guests that we have in the property. So I give them a site selection questionnaire, basically that they fill out, and I kind of give them a heads up of what to expect when they arrive. I give them clear direction. So that's what I do anyways, and it seems to work.
We're doing the same thing. We meet with them over the phone first and tell them what to expect and go over the county laws and ordinances and what our employees will be doing, and that I'd love to shake your hand tomorrow when I see you, but I'm not going to be able to. And I think one of the difficulties, and I have a colleague that has a closed hotel, and my hotel's open, but some of the amenities are still not open. It can be difficult to show a hotel with closed features. So I think I'm struggling with that, and I saw some of Michelle's posts yesterday of some of my counterparts in San Diego, and I weeped a little, because it's really hard to show a hotel that's not fully open and fully functional, and show the client to have them envision what it's going to be like next year or in 2022 when the restaurant's dark and some of the exterior features of the hotel aren't kept up like they normally are because they're closed off.
Right, we're at 50% occupancy. We have 890 guest rooms, so we're at 50% max, because you cannot and we're strong leisure right now, obviously. So you cannot social distance correctly. They couldn't manage it. So we're at 50%. So I had a site visit Sunday morning at 9:30. I had no suites to show them because we're sold out. We have been sold out since we opened. Good problem to have.
Right.
But nonetheless, when you have a client coming in, you can't show them rooms, specifically suites for upgrades. It's hard. It's really, I've learned a lot through this whole thing, so.
Yeah, I think what is happening for everybody is your creativity is getting is opening up, because you're thinking, well, what do we do? Like, because the thing that I would share is we were asking for tchotchkes, not because we want to I share with people, I ask for swag because I want the clients to get the swag. I can't give my swag away. I get so much swag like that, unless it's the really cool sunglasses or something, I can't give the swag away. So I didn't really want it. But the one hotel that we did, and I haven't hit all the posts yet. There were 3 hotels. I'm doing them once a day. So the last one, they actually gave us masks. So that is something that you could do as far as swag. It's like, hey, and here's your mask.
We actually have them logoed masks that we can hand out for site. Yeah, they love it.
Yeah. So that's just another thing, Robert, is I would do the masks. And the questionnaire is a great, that's what, I didn't actually get all the interaction, but the hotels were like, oh my gosh, like you could tell they were like, oh my, we're going to do a site. And they were like, well, we have these rules and you have to do the rules. And it's like, I think the more that, it's like anything, the more that you practice it, the more comfortable you become with it. And that's the same thing with the meeting planners. Meeting planners, I'm encouraging the meeting planners, like, hey, until you source, like maybe just do a site inspection just so that it just feels normal. Right?
Yeah, and the clients like it normal.
Yeah.
The clients like it normal. I mean,
Right.
They felt normal and I feel normal, but it is scary at first. It really is. I mean, I didn't know what to expect after, and I did it 3 days after we fully reopened.
Wow.
So, but it went well.
When
So
you're saying some people
they
don't want
signed a contract.
when you're saying some people don't want to wear masks, how do
Yes.
you deal with that?
Well, at that time on the June 21st, associates were required to wear masks, but guests were not. That didn't go in effect to us till July the 4th.
Okay.
But I still have had people come in that say, we never wear a mask anywhere until it went till they made an order, state order that people had to wear them. I don't know, some people just have a problem wearing them.
Yeah.
But until they decide that they're going to wear their mask, we're going to continue to go down this road, right?
Right. Right. So, well, you guys, thanks for always playing full out and staying extra long. I want to be mindful. So I'm going to say our farewells for this week. I will post the replay next week, if everybody's complete. Speak now if you're not. Okay. We'll be groovy, everyone. Have a
Alrighty.
good week. Make
Have a
those 10
great
calls.
night. All right, we're on it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.